Welcome to Data Security Over Coffee. That's DSOC to those in the know.
Where the only thing more dangerous than a zero-day exploit is Chad from accounting clicking on every single email attachment.
From password post-its hidden under keyboards
to that one guy who keeps using password 123 despite our 47 security memos. We're here to talk about the threats you never knew you should be terrified of.
I'm Dr. Joe Hartford.
And I'm Angie. Have you tried turning it off and on again, Singer Keating?
Bringing you the latest in cybersecurity nightmares and risk management drama.
Because somewhere out there, a hacker's trying to get into your company's data.
And Karen from HR just clicked on another free iPhone pop-up. This is Data Security Over Coffee, DSOC, where every episode is a penetration test you didn't ask for. Every time I go through this and I watch people's faces on the parts of Angie, like nobody ever laughs at me, which is fine. I've got pretty thick skin. But when she starts talking about 47 emails or, hi, I'm Angie Singer, did you turn it on and turn it off again?
That is brilliant.
Oh, I can't take credit for that. I cannot take credit for that. Plus, I think I definitely don't look like that guy in the video with like much less hair in the summertime.
No, you do. You do. It's just maybe your younger brother.
So, Joe Hartford, Angie Singer Keating, special guest today, super special guest, because he has been kind enough to celebrate his birthday. And so I think it's important that before we get started and we do formal introductions, I think, Angie, you and I we gotta kick it in to the typical birthday celebration. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy
birthday
to the greatest icon all of K through 12, Jeff.
Wow.
Happy birthday. That's right. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Wow, little jazz spin on it. I like that. Thank you, guys.
Oh, you're welcome. And thanks for taking time out of your day. Jeff, tell the 315 people who you are and what you do.
Certainly. My name is Jeff Buettler. I am currently the tech director for the Pottsgrove School District, which is in Montgomery County. Before that, as Angie was reviewing my resume, before that I was at excuse me.
She was stalking you.
She was stalking me, yeah, on LinkedIn. Before that, I was at Governor Mifflin School District doing similar work. And then before that, Twin Valley and so on and so forth, about 5 iterations back. But I've spent about 19 years in educational technology. Prior to that, I was in the corporate world where I was working at a financial company down in Horsham. So I was doing that for about 8 years prior to being in educational technology. So, and it was actually my wife who got me involved in educational technology because we had moved to Chester County, and she was looking for a job. She's a teacher, and then she came across my first stop, which was O&J Roberts School District, which is in northern Chester County, and I worked there for 8 years as their assistant director of technology, and that's where I met you, Joe.
That is where you met me. I came in your office begging for business, I'm sure.
Right, and we happily gave it to you.
It's been a fun ride, and I think that it's crazy to think 19 years, and as we were talking in our famous green room, kids are older now. They're almost empty nesters.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about 19 years in educational technology. What was it like then? What does it look like today? What's that journey been like for you in whatever, from whatever angle, whether it's procurement or leadership support or challenges or what have you?
It's been interesting because technology in education, it follows the trend of curriculum, and it follows the interest of the school district or the LEA that you're working for. And those interests ebb and flow with what's happening in the world. So whereas in the business world, they may have arrived at some more rigorous cybersecurity or disaster recovery type scenarios and plans and strategies a lot earlier. Education, I want to say it's a little bit of a step behind, because there's that opinion that our data is not worth it. Our data is
Right.
not worth being hacked or exploited. And so, as tech directors, we're also looking to see what's happening in the world and where the trend is going to head. And so, I would say the consistent thread through my entire 19 years has been we attempt to be proactive, but we end up being reactive in many ways because of budget, interest, just simply convincing people or stakeholders that this is the direction we need to go. And sometimes the reason is not tangible yet. And so it takes a lot of trust. So again, another thread through that 19 years has been the ability to build trust. And that has to come from me. That has to come from my ability to establish a mission and a vision for the organization, for the district, for the LEA, and assure them that it's the right direction to go, and it's the safe way to go. And here's why we have to be conscientious of our data and our information and our access. So those have been like the common threads through the whole 19 years. I think around that has been this casing of different kinds of technology trends. I think early on, the biggest trend, of course, was going one-to-one. School districts going one-to-one. So there was a huge trend of school districts either allowing students to bring their own devices or not, but then eventually arriving at, well, the natural learning tool of the future is going to be that everyone has a device. We need to treat it like a textbook. So we kind of got over that hump. And even for school districts that were lagging behind, COVID, the pandemic, really propelled those school districts into being a one-to-one district and establishing very quickly that initiative. So I think we're at a point now where, and we're at a point actually where I enjoy, which is we don't regard one-to-one anymore. It's just so woven into the culture of any learning environment that it just simply is. And so now the next thing, of course, is the trend of cybersecurity and protection against things like data hacking and exploitation. And then the next one, of course, that kind of works hand in hand is AI. So it's there's those common threads, but then there's also chasing those trends and also assessing, is the trend going to be something that continues to enhance the curriculum? Because that's, in an education environment, that's the first thing. That's, is this tool going to make it better?
Right.
Is this going to propel the curriculum forward and the teaching and learning process?
So the theme today really is to have that conversation around third-party vendor risk and what do those partners and that we work with in IT look like, and how do we assess their risk, what do we do about it, et cetera. So in an environment such as yours, and you think about, you work with a Reclamere as an example, and we've worked together for a very long time, and you trust us to provide you with secure IT asset and disposition services. So we're literally taking your equipment. Data at rest on board is in our truck, and we're going to provide those certified data destruction services to you, as we do for many school districts around Pennsylvania. But we present risk to you, obviously, right? So I think when you look at it from that perspective, or maybe you think about the other IT service providers that you work with, how does a school district go about, or how do you look at being able to determine the risk of that partner and whether or not it's somebody that you want to work with, that you go back to what you said earlier around trust?
I have traditionally created really good relationships with the vendors that I work with. And so let me say what I'm about to say, and then there's a caveat. But I will typically meet face to face with everyone that I work with. Much the way you and I first established our working relationship, and that has always been very important to me, because in order for me to establish, in order for the district to trust me, I have to be able to sell the product, the service, whatever it is, to the district to say, here's what we need, and here's why these guys over here are the best ones to do it.
Right.
And so I can't move forward unless I have a really good relationship with the people that I'm working with. So every vendor that I work with, I know them face to face, and I've gotten rid of vendors for that reason too. There have been folks that I've worked with where the person with whom I'm dealing with isn't a good fit, just personality wise, or the company on the other end is constantly changing who that interfacing person is.
Sure.
And so that's never really great for me. So establishing that right up front is absolutely important to me. It's really the only way I know how to go about doing that. I have to be able to trust them. They have to know my story, and by my story I mean the organization that I represent. And in the end, I'm creating an experience for my end users. There's a part of my job that is customer service. And part of creating good customer service is creating a solid experience. And so I have to be able to explain that experience to the vendors that I'm working with, whoever they may be, so that they're also creating that experience for my end users, and helping me, do what I need to do to maintain that trust throughout the organization. I will say that COVID, again, even though it's 5 years on, COVID hindered that, of course. So, I think we're getting back into that groove. At least I'm trying to, with the districts that I've worked in since COVID, because I think there's that knee-jerk reaction to have these virtual meetings, which is fine and great and convenient, but I still want the face-to-face. I still want to see them physically and meet them and talk to them, and depending on the nature of the service or the job, get them on site. So yeah, I'm in the business of people. Education is the business of people. And our byproduct is students and learning. And so we have to work like that, to be effective, I believe. One of the things, a friend of mine who told me a while ago, who was a principal, who I really respected, he said, you work in education, you're an educator, period. Doesn't matter if you're the business manager or the tech director or the custodian, someone who may think that they're not an educator, you're wrong. You're absolutely an educator. That's the experience. That's the primary experience you are providing. And so everyone that I work with, that's what I have to That's part of the story that they need to understand.
Gotcha. You know, as you were talking, I counted probably 7 or 8 times where you used the word trust. You know, and I think that that's a big deal. So
That's what that clicker was.
exactly, that's exactly you caught me. You caught me. You know, because I'm not that bright and I only have 10 fingers.
Right.
So I know that we're about the same age, and we look at things from the perspective of relationship building and coming into your office and shaking your hand and sitting down, and really having that conversation. What for you are the ways that you build that trust? Because that is incredibly important. It's more than just, hey, do you have a super duper website? Or hey, are
Right.
you going to give me a discount? Or
Yeah.
hey, whatever it may be, right? How do you, in the role that you are today, how do you go about being able to build that trust with somebody that you've got to rely on as a vendor partner?
I try to put myself in a position where I learn something from them. And that's very true of the relationship I think I have had with you, whether or not you know this or not. But I go back to many conversations you and I had when we were working with Reclamere directly. And I go back to those conversations because it's all relevant, of course. It's all very relevant to what I continue to do. And that's carried over into conversations with my current network engineer. And he and I, see very much eye to eye. And when we start talking specifically about things like cybersecurity, we know we need to get from point A to point B. We know we have the menu in front of us, and we need to get through all of the items in order to establish a really good culture of security in the district. And then we can engage someone like Reclamere to come in and do the testing. But beforehand, we know we need to establish a lot of things, right? I mean, that's kind of the basic process for most everybody. But the important thing here is I still go back to those conversations you and I had about what is effective security, what direction do we need to go in, how do you make it intrusive on purpose, maybe, versus non-intrusive to establish a better experience. So this is a really long answer to say that if I'm learning from the vendor, if I'm learning from you, then that makes my ability to talk through what experience we need and what's effective for us, to explain, to kind of be that liaison between you and then every other department on my side that it may be affecting, to speak in terms that are understandable to the vendor, to so that they know exactly their place in the entire process. A vendor, a singular vendor, may be working on a piece of the whole project, right? But helping them to understand, okay, here's where you are in my overall vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we're all talking the same language, then we're all working towards the same goal. And that's just the upfront. Once the project is going or has been implemented or established, what's important to me then thereafter is that ongoing relationship for extended support, or even just to say, okay, we're seeing this trend, and what you implemented for us now might be aging out. Where do you think we should go?
Mm-hmm.
So that now the vendor is not just someone I'm buying something from. It's a working relationship of, all right, our organization, I know you guys, where do we need to go from here? We trust you. We don't need to necessarily get overly competitive and shop this around. You're part of the family. What do we do from here?
And it's the
Yeah, and I
relationship,
think
right?
What's that?
I think that's the piece. It's the relationship piece that's incredibly important.
Absolutely. I can't move forward with vendors or people that I work with without relationships. Absolutely not.
I think that's probably one of the other really big challenges of third-party risk management these days, is that so many companies now, you don't necessarily get to have that personal relationship anymore. As you said, they promote people. Private equity comes in and buys them, and there's an entire reshuffling, and so it just makes things like different forms of independent validation, like SOC 2, all the more important. We as small companies, you as a kind of lowly school district in Pennsylvania, you don't have the kind of cachet or market power that a Fortune 500 company has to bring to bear on a vendor. And so we have to find other ways to trust but verify. And I'm especially concerned with that now with school districts as it relates to vendors that are either have AI embedded in them, or they are a pure play AI tool. That mindset of, well, we don't have data that's valuable. Absolutely not true. And one of the most telling things for me was back in the day when Joe was working on his PhD, and I believe his original idea was he wanted to study how to identify high school students that had entrepreneurial skill to be future business leaders. And I'll never forget his frustration at all of the regulations around studying those populations of people, children. So when you're talking about AI data, the behavioral characteristics of students and educators working with those students, that's especially target-rich data that companies would absolutely kill for. I also wonder if one of the things we're going to see crop up in education is kind of the Apple model. 20, 30 years ago, when Apple came along and said, hey, we're going to give you MacBooks for next to nothing, or iMacs for, really cheap. And they were basically buying a loyal customer base, because if you get a first grader working on an iMac and get them to fall in love with Apple, you've potentially got a customer for life. So are we going to see these giant corporations that work in AI giving away their products and services basically because our students are going to be the currency with which we're paying them? And so I'm especially keen on understanding vendors that school districts are using and understanding what the claims around AI are that these vendors are making to school districts.
Yeah, I think like a lot of things, we have to be cautious of marketing and promises. We have to understand, I think, the true nature of AI. And right now, I believe that the true nature of AI is a content generator, right? I mean, it's I heard someone refer to it as an algorithm intelligence, not necessarily artificial intelligence, which I believe to be true. It's not necessarily self-aware, so I guess it's not true artificial intelligence. But I actually have come across a vendor already trying to sell me a data analytic application where they would load all of our data, apply AI algorithms to it, and I think the initial sell is that you could literally speak into your laptop microphone and say, give me a list of all my special ed students in grade 3 who have an IEP expiring in the next 30 days. And it would produce that report based on what I just said. and which is great, for a teacher who doesn't want to sit and figure out table relationships and learn how to do spreadsheets and whatever.
Use basic technology. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is correct. Yes. Double click on Excel and right. Yeah. So yeah, again, the marketing is great. You can just say this thing and, computer, give me this. And it does it. However, that's a gateway to a lot of exploitation.
Yes.
And the initial is you get analytics. Great. Yeah. But the long term, the ripple effect of this is now the places your data will go by Dr. Seuss. It's and we don't know. I don't know that the answer to that question. When asked, the vendor does not necessarily give clear answers. So yeah, I think to answer your question, Angie, we're going to see that definitely, but we have to be very cautious about it. One of the discussions I'm having now with my teachers is not necessarily the use of the AI tools, but the ethics of it.
Yes.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So you
I think they're, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
So you've had a 19-year journey.
Yeah.
So now, compared to 19 years ago, if you were to, and this is always like one of Angie's favorite questions, so I'm going to steal it. So now, 19 years later,
yeah,
what keeps you up at night? Like what about, whether it's a particular technology, perhaps an ethical issue, whatever it may be in the environment that impacts you and your career, your profession, what is it that freaks you out? Like, what is the thing that makes you go, whoa?
I think it's still the exploitation of our data.
Okay.
Because just when you think it's not really where it's not really happening anymore, and that has kind of died down, suddenly you see about 10 districts or related organizations close to you who've suddenly gotten hit with something.
Right.
And maybe they're, paying a ransom or whatever, the FBI has been called in, the whole spiel. I think that still gets me. That still keeps me up at night. And one of the things you and I, Joe, talked about a long time ago, and is certainly prevalent in a lot of news articles and white papers on the topic, and that is your end users are often the biggest hole. And so ensuring that they're not the biggest hole still keeps me up at night. So, my engineer and I, we have talked a lot lately about what are our where do we go with the end user experience for passwords, and the trend of using multi-factor authentication, of course, comes into the discussion, shifting to passphrases versus passwords. So all the while keeping the experience less annoying for people who are teachers.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's still the one thing, because right now, like for instance, I'm working in a Mac and Apple environment. This is the first district I've ever worked in where we are primarily Mac and versus Windows, of course. And I think there have been times where that has helped us. But yet I'm no less worried than I was when I was working in a Windows environment.
Sure. So I happen to be a brand new tech director. First time getting ready to go into the school district next to you, whatever school district that may be. I have no idea.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what what advice do you have for me? I mean, what are the things that, call it the top two, the top three, whatever it may be. If we're hanging out and we're having lunch and the position that I'm in, what's the advice you're giving me to kind of set me on a good path, at least for my first academic year? Maybe not necessarily my career, but
Yeah.
my first academic year. What are the things I should really be paying attention to?
I think there's two things. The first thing is, if you're a brand new tech director, period, get a mentor. Get somebody who has already been a tech director, especially in your environment. And you said school district, so get another school district, tech director to kind of mentor you through this journey. And there are organizations that can help that. There's like the local IU can usually help you with that sort of process. Even the state, the PASBO organization, which is the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials, they can help you with that as well. I think that's so beneficial because not only are you gaining their experience and their guidance, of course, but you're also gaining, you also get exposed to a networking group. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is listen to the departments in your district, listen to what curriculum is doing and saying, listen to your teachers, especially. You are the face of technology for that district. You are the face of the primary tool that they're going to use in teaching and learning. And they need to trust you. And the only way they're going to trust you is if they know you and they know who you are. Because at the end of the day, if something does go wrong, it's your voice out of that department that's saying, attention, XYZ is happening and we know, and here's what we're going to do about it. And they trust that will happen. So listening in order to establish trust.
Gotcha. Angie, do you have any wrap-up questions before I ask my final question?
No, I really don't. I mean, I'm really fascinated listening to Jeff talk about how he works to build trust. I think so many times when we do these DSOCs, we talk about all kinds of technical controls and we talk about, techie stuff, or we talk about scary data breaches or whatever. But at the end of the day, IT is a human interaction profession. And unfortunately, if you tend to be a technologist who does not necessarily interact well with people, then education is probably not the industry sector that you're going to be best suited, because I've never witnessed more diplomatic behavior than our clients who are in IT in education. It is, followed then by healthcare. But, healthcare has the benefit of some really rigorously enforced security regulation. So does financial services. So when I talk to folks that are thinking about making a pivot into education, it doesn't matter at what level, I always explain to them that it is a whole different world, because the levers of power and the enforcement mechanisms that you may have had in a highly regulated sector really don't necessarily apply in education. So I commend you and the career that you've had in this field. And obviously, as I was stalking your LinkedIn, watching your progression up the ladder, you clearly are very good at it. And so I think you gave some folks some really good information about finding a mentor, building trust. And I think that was all great stuff, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. I just to kind of, jump on what you just said there. When I made that transition from the corporate world into education, one of the things that it took me a solid year to figure out was nobody cared about how much technology I knew in education. It was all about, can you mesh with the culture of the district, and can you establish relationships with teachers and administrators and staff, and so that they can trust you. That's been it. The technology stuff is good, of course. I couldn't just do that on relationships alone, but that's the stuff that that's the discussion I have with my staff. That's the stuff that my staff have to worry about, and the nuts and the bolts and the geeky stuff, and the discussions I have with the guy who's going to sell me some piece of software. But no one. But on the educational side, I would say 2/3 of any meeting I've been in or discussion I've had or interview that I've been in through my entire career in education has been about relationships and people, and how I'm going to create a vision that is in line with curriculum, which is a very subjective area.
Mm-hmm.
It is not black and white.
I guess the last thing I would ask for or question, or maybe it's just simply advice. So, we can argue that we either have 500 or 501 school districts in Pennsylvania. We've got.
I would say 501.
Okay, I'll go with 501. It's your birthday. I'm not going to argue with you on your birthday. Come on, jeez. But the reality is that it's still very difficult to get the environment to even have those conversations around information security. And we abandoned the idea of fear, uncertainty, and doubt years ago. That's not in our marketing. That's not in any part of our messaging, et cetera, and so forth. So I guess my ask of you is, what advice can you give a service provider like a Reclamere that says, listen, we just want to have a conversation with the school district. I'm not believing that even half of those school districts are going to become our client, but we know from experience in 25 years of being in business that there's a lot of liability out there. And really what we're interested in doing is being able to have those conversations, whether at the school board level or with the tech director, et cetera, just to talk about what are those options look like? What are the things you should be thinking of strategically over the next 1, 2, or 3 school years, et cetera? And I'm still not exactly sure what's the best way to do that, to really get connected.
Yeah, there is that fine line between wanting to establish a relationship, as Reclamere may want to do, and the school district interpreting that as a cold call.
Sure.
And then dismissing it, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the ways is you would have to involve the districts that you've already worked with.
Got you.
And like, I know that I wouldn't have any problem reaching out to XYZ school district to say, hey, I understand you're looking at this service. My guys over at Reclamere, they've been solid and they do it well, and here's how they're going to go about it. You should really engage them or consider engaging them. I also think it's a good idea to do partnership presentations too at conferences. I don't know if you get enough opportunity to do that. But I think that's a really good way of reaching a network of people that know and work alongside the person or tech director, let's say, that you're presenting alongside. I think that's another great way. I think working with the intermediate units as well is a great way to kind of put yourself in front of a multitude of districts. they'll always be a great gateway for services and applications and things that might help those districts, because they're always looking for ways to kind of create consortiums.
Sure.
So, I think those are probably the best ways, without just kind of, like I said, cold calling and then putting yourself in a position where you're easily dismissed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I appreciate that. So, number one, thanks for being a long-standing friend of Reclamere, or a 4. That's a thing.
And full disclosure, Pottsgrove does not use Reclamere currently. However, well, here's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Like I was just saying before, there's those certain things we need to do to kind of get ourselves ready, and then we engage a service like Reclamere. Well, that's on my 3-year plan. I'm in my 3rd year right now, so
okay.
So we're almost there, and our next step now will be to bring in Reclamere, because I will be reaching out, so that we improve our security footprint and our insurance footprint.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, it was really cool this year. This is the 2nd year in a row that our cyber liability insurance, professional liability insurance, our premium's gone down. And I think it went down this year. It went down the first time because we got SOC 2 Type 1. And I think it went down the second time because we got SOC 2 and we're working on Type 2 right now. So there's real value in being able to demonstrate security to save money with cyber insurance.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I again, the technical side of me can't speak highly enough about, the service you guys provide. I've always kept you in mind. I've always sent people your way. So,
yes, you have.
Yeah.
Well, I hope after this ringing endorsement, Joe sends you something more than just a shock and awe box.
See, this
which by the way, I really appreciate. That was fantastic. Got all my Reclamere swag. It was awesome.
I'm telling you, is that
Thank
cool
you.
or what? Of course. And by the way, the book is meant to be a gift. So after you read it, you're supposed to pass it on to somebody that believe it will impact their life, and so on and so on. It's like Clairol back, I'm old. Clairol, like the person that did the hair shampoo commercials, and this person told somebody, and so she shakes her head. She's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that." I am saying it because I have control of the dashboard, and there's nothing.
Because nobody in the audience under 40 knows what you're talking about.
Right.
But you know what? Do you know how they'll know? They'll have Google on their phone.
That's right. Yeah, there's about 300 people not listening right now as they look up Clairol. Look up how to spell Clairol.
Oh my gosh, Jeff, thank you so much. We're gonna go back to the green room real quick, but for the time being, we're gonna end this. And really, in all sincerity, thank you so much for not just being on, but being open and honest and sharing information with people. I think that's really helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, Chris, and happy birthday.
Oh, Chris, and this is his birthday. His name is Jeff, you dope. See, this is what I mean. They're not medicated, and you put them on video. Oh, my God. This is how we're going to end. She's super embarrassed. You see how red her face is? I love it.